This is Adaeze. At 26 years old, she had nothing left. No husband, no family, no home, and in her swollen belly, a child she was not sure would survive the week. She had walked for 3 days straight, barefoot, bleeding, hungry, until her legs gave out in front of a tall black gate she did not recognize. She collapsed on the cold pavement, her back pressed against the iron bars, her hands wrapped around her belly like a shield. She did not know whose gate it was. She did not care. All she wanted was to close her eyes and rest, even if it meant never opening them again. But somewhere inside that mansion, behind marble floors and security cameras, a billionaire sat watching his CCTV footage. When he saw her face, he froze. His glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. Because he knew her. He knew exactly who she was, and what she had done for him 10 years ago. So grab your popcorn, sit back, and get ready for one of the most emotional stories you have ever heard. And if you are new here, do not forget to subscribe and like this video to support more powerful stories like this one. Adaeze was not always like this. There was a time when she smiled easily, when her laughter filled rooms, when people called her the bright one. She grew up in a small village in Anambra, the only daughter of a poor but proud farmer and his hard-working wife. Her father, Matsi Okonkwo, believed that education was the greatest inheritance he could leave her. So he sold yams, cassava, and sometimes even his own clothes to keep her in school. Her mother, Mama Okonkwo, woke before dawn every day to fry akara by the roadside, saving every kobo for Ada's future. And Ada did not disappoint them. She was brilliant, not just smart, but extraordinary. She came first in every class. She won spelling competitions. She solved math problems that made her teachers pause and stare. By the time she reached secondary school, the whole village knew her name. They called her Adaeze, which means the daughter of the king. And though her father was no king, everyone believed she would rise to become something great. But life had other plans. The year Ada turned 17, tragedy struck. Her father went to the farm one morning and never came back. They found him by the river, his body cold, his heart stopped by a sickness no one knew he had. Mama Okonkwo wept for 7 days. Ada did not cry. She could not. She had to be strong for her mother. She dropped out of school and took over her mother's akara business, waking at 4 in the morning to grind beans and set up the stall. For 2 years, she held the family together. She fed her mother. She paid the little debts her father left behind. She even managed to save a small amount, dreaming of the day she could return to school. But fate was not finished with her yet. One night, her mother complained of chest pains. By morning, she was gone. Just like that. No warning. No goodbye. Ada buried her mother beside her father in the village cemetery and stood there for hours, staring at the 2 graves, wondering what she had done to deserve such sorrow. She was alone now. 19 years old, orphaned, with nothing but a clay pot of savings and a heart full of broken dreams. The villagers whispered behind her back. Some said she was cursed. Others said no man would marry a girl with such bad luck. A few offered help, but their help came with strings attached, strings Ada refused to pull. She knew what some of them wanted from her. She would rather starve than sell her dignity. So she made a decision. She would leave the village and go to Lagos. She had heard stories about the big city, how people could reinvent themselves there, how hard work could open doors that birth and background kept locked. She packed her few belongings into a Ganamusko bag, tied her mother's wrapper around her waist for luck, and boarded a bus heading south. Lagos welcomed her with chaos. The noise, the traffic, the people pushing and shoving. It was nothing like her quiet village. She had no phone, no address, no contact. She wandered the streets of Oshodi for hours, clutching her bag, flinching at every shout, every horn, every stranger who looked at her too long. By nightfall, she found a woman selling food near a bus stop. The woman, Mama Teyo, saw the fear in Ada's eyes and took pity on her. She offered her a place to sleep, a corner of her small room in a Face Me I Face You compound, in exchange for help with the cooking. For 3 years, Ada worked with Mama Teyo. She woke early, slept late, and never complained. She learned to navigate Lagos, its tricks and its traps. She learned which areas to avoid after dark. She learned how to spot a kind face and how to run from a dangerous one. She saved money slowly, naira by naira, still holding on to her dream of going back to school someday. And then, one evening, everything changed. She was walking home from the market when she saw the accident. A black SUV had crashed into a ditch near a construction site. Smoke rose from the engine. People gathered, but no one moved to help. They were too afraid of getting involved, of being blamed, of the unknown. But Adaeze did not hesitate. She dropped her bag and ran toward the car. Inside, she saw a man, unconscious, blood pouring from a wound on his forehead. She pulled at the door, screaming for help, until finally it opened. She dragged him out, her arms burning, her lungs gasping, and laid him on the grass just before the car caught fire. She saved his life that night. She did not know his name. She did not know he was one of the richest men in Nigeria. She only knew that a life was worth saving. That man was Chief Obiora Madu, and he would never forget her face. The night Adaeze saved Chief Obiora, she did not wait for thanks. By the time the ambulance arrived and people began asking questions, she had already disappeared into the crowd. Her bag of tomatoes and peppers was gone, probably stolen in the chaos, but she did not care. She walked home in silence, her dress stained with the stranger's blood, her heart still pounding from what she had just done. Mama Teo scolded her when she arrived. "You this girl, you want to die? What if the car exploded while you were there? What if police arrested you?" Adaeze did not argue. She simply washed her hands, changed her clothes, and lay on her mat staring at the ceiling. She had done what was right. That was enough for her. Weeks passed, then months. Adaeze continued her life as if nothing had happened. She worked, she saved, she dreamed. She never told anyone about the accident, not even Mama Teo. It became a secret she carried quietly, a memory that surfaced only at night when sleep refused to come. She often wondered if the man survived. She hoped he did, but she never expected to see him again. Meanwhile, Chief Obiora Madu woke up in a private hospital 3 days after the accident. His head was bandaged, his ribs were cracked, but he was alive. The doctors called it a miracle. A few more minutes in that burning car, and he would have been dead. His family surrounded his bed, weeping with relief. His business partners sent flowers and prayers. But the only question on Obiora's mind was simple. Who saved me? No one had an answer. The witnesses at the scene described a young woman, slim, dark-skinned, wearing a faded Ankara dress. She had pulled him from the wreck and vanished before anyone could get her name. Obiora ordered his security team to find her. They searched for weeks, checked hospitals, interviewed bystanders, even offered a reward. But Lagos was too big, too crowded, too chaotic. The woman who saved his life had disappeared like smoke in the wind. Obiora never stopped looking. But eventually, life demanded his attention. His companies needed him. His family needed him. He returned to his empire, to his billions, to his responsibilities. Yet every night before he slept, he whispered a prayer for the stranger who had given him a second chance. One day, he told himself, "One day I will find her and repay her." He did not know that one day would come 10 years later, in the most unexpected way. Back in the compound, Ada's life took a turn she never anticipated. A new tenant moved into the room across from Mama Teo's. His name was Emeka, a tall, handsome man with a gentle smile and soft-spoken voice. He said he was a businessman, dealing in electronics and phone accessories. He dressed well, spoke well, and treated everyone with respect. The women in the compound whispered about him. He was unmarried, successful, and clearly educated. A rare find in a place like this. Adaeze noticed him, but she kept her distance. She had learned not to trust easily, especially not men who seemed too perfect. But Emeka was persistent. He greeted her every morning. He bought akara from Mama Teo's stall even though he did not like akara. He asked about her day, her dreams, her story. At first, Adaeze gave short answers, guarded and cold. But slowly, day by day, her walls began to crumble. 6 months later, they were in love. Or at least Ada believed they were. Emeka promised her the world. He said he would marry her, take her away from the compound, give her the life she deserved. He spoke of a house in Lekki, a car, children who would go to the best schools. And Ada, who had been alone for so long, who had buried both parents and survived on her own, allowed herself to believe him. She allowed herself to hope. They married quietly, without ceremony, just signatures at the local government office and prayers at a small church. Mama Teo cried with joy. The neighbors celebrated. And Ada, for the first time in years, felt like God had finally answered her prayers. She moved into Emeka's apartment in Surulere, a modest but comfortable place with running water and a ceiling fan. She kept it clean, cooked his meals, and loved him with everything she had. 3 months into the marriage, Ada discovered she was pregnant. She wept when she saw the test results, not from sadness, but from overwhelming joy. A child, her own child, someone who would carry her blood, her name, her dreams. She imagined teaching her baby to read, to count, to pray. She imagined a future where her suffering finally made sense, where all the pain had been preparation for this blessing. But Emeka did not share her joy. When she told him the news, his smile flickered and faded. He congratulated her quietly, then left the house without explanation. He came home late that night, smelling of alcohol and perfume. Ada said nothing. She told herself he was stressed, that men sometimes reacted strangely to pregnancy news, that everything would be fine once the baby arrived. She was wrong. Everything was not fine. Over the following weeks, Emeka changed. He became distant, cold, irritable. He stopped coming home some nights. He stopped giving her money for food. When she asked questions, he shouted. When she cried, he walked away. The man who had promised her the world was now treating her like a stranger, like a burden, like a mistake he wished he could undo. One evening, Ada came home from the market to find the apartment empty. Not just empty of Emeka, but empty of everything. The furniture was gone. The television was gone. Her clothes, her documents, her savings hidden in a small box under the bed, all gone. On the table, she found a single sheet of paper with 4 words written in Emeka's handwriting. I am not ready. Ada stood in that empty room, her pregnant belly pressing against her wrapper, her legs shaking, her mind refusing to accept what her eyes were seeing. She had been abandoned, used, discarded like garbage, and she had nowhere to go. Ada stood in that empty apartment until the sun went down. She did not cry. She did not scream. She simply stood there, her hand on her belly, her eyes fixed on the note Emeka had left behind. For words, I am not ready, as if their marriage was a test he could postpone, as if the child growing inside her was an inconvenience he could ignore, as if she, Adaeze, daughter of Matsi Okonkwo, was nothing more than a temporary distraction in his life. The landlord came the next morning. He banged on the door and demanded 3 months of unpaid rent. Ada tried to explain, tried to tell him that her husband had vanished, that she had no money, that she was pregnant and alone. But the man did not care. He gave her 2 hours to leave before he called the police. Ada gathered the few items Emeka had left behind, a wrapper, a pair of slippers, a small bag of rice, and walked out of the apartment that was supposed to be her home. She went back to Mama Teyo's compound, hoping for shelter, hoping for the woman who had taken her in years ago to take her in again. But when she arrived, she found strangers living in Mama Teyo's room. A neighbor told her the news. Mama Teyo had died 2 months ago. Heart attack. She was buried in her village, and no one knew how to reach Ada to tell her. Ada leaned against the wall and finally allowed herself to cry. The one person who had shown her kindness was gone. The one door that might have opened for her was now closed forever. She walked the streets of Lagos for days, sleeping under bridges, begging for food, drinking water from public taps. Her belly grew heavier. Her feet grew weaker. People looked at her with disgust, with pity, with indifference. Some threw coins at her. Others threw insults. One woman spat at her and called her a prostitute. A man offered her money for things she refused to do. She walked away from him, her stomach churning, her soul burning with shame. She tried to find work. She went to restaurants, to shops, to homes with hiring signs. But no one wanted a pregnant woman with no address, no phone, no references. They looked at her swollen belly and shook their heads. "Come back after you deliver," some said. Others simply slammed the door. One madam laughed in her face. "You want to work in my house looking like that? What if you give birth on my floor? Who will clean the mess?" Nights were the hardest. Lagos transformed after dark, becoming a jungle where the weak were prey. Ada learned to hide in corners, behind churches, inside uncompleted buildings. She learned to sleep with one eye open, clutching a broken bottle for protection. She fought off two men who tried to attack her one night, screaming until they ran away. She woke up shivering in the rain another night, her clothes soaked, her baby kicking inside her as if protesting the cold. Her body began to fail her. She developed a cough that would not go away. Her ankles swelled until walking became agony. She had not eaten properly in weeks, surviving on scraps, on charity, on garbage. She felt the baby moving less and less, and fear gripped her heart. What if her child was dying inside her? What if all this suffering was for nothing? What if she would lose the only thing she had left? One evening, as the sun painted Lagos orange and red, Ada found herself in Victoria Island. She did not know how she got there. Her legs had carried her through streets she did not recognize, past buildings taller than anything in her village, past cars that cost more than her father had earned in his entire lifetime. She was so tired, so hungry, so broken. Her vision blurred. Her knees buckled. She collapsed in front of a tall black gate. The gate was magnificent, wrought iron with gold trim, flanked by security cameras and guarded by men in uniforms. Behind it stood a mansion that looked like a palace, white walls gleaming, fountains sparkling, gardens blooming with flowers Ada had never seen before. She did not know whose house this was. She did not care. All she knew was that she could not walk another step. Her body had given up. Her spirit had surrendered. She pressed her back against the gate and wrapped her arms around her belly. "I am sorry," she whispered to her unborn child. "I tried. I really tried. But I cannot go any further." Tears streamed down her face, mixing with the dust and sweat. She looked up at the sky, searching for God, searching for answers. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you give me this life? Why did you let me suffer like this? What did I do wrong?" The security guards noticed her but did not approach. They had seen beggars before, homeless people who wandered into the wealthy neighborhoods hoping for handouts. They would chase her away in the morning, they decided. For now, let her sleep. She was just another nobody, another statistic, another invisible soul in a city of millions. But Ada was not nobody. And somewhere inside that mansion, the man who owed her his life was about to discover the truth. Chief Obiora Madu could not sleep that night. He had spent the evening reviewing business proposals, attending a charity dinner, and arguing with his son about the future of the family company. At 63, he was tired. Not physically, but spiritually. He had everything money could buy, but something was missing. Something had been missing for 10 years. Ever since the accident that should have killed him. He walked to his study and poured himself a glass of whiskey. As he sat down, his eyes drifted to the security monitors mounted on the wall. He liked to check them before bed, a habit from his younger days when he trusted no one. He scanned the screens lazily, expecting nothing unusual, and then he saw her. A woman, lying against his gate, her body curled around a pregnant belly, her face turned toward the camera as if she knew someone was watching. Chief Obiora leaned forward. His heart stopped. His glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the marble floor. He knew that face. He had searched for that face for 10 years. Chief Obiora stared at the screen, his hands trembling, his breath caught in his throat. 10 years. For 10 years, he had searched for this woman. He had hired private investigators, placed advertisements in newspapers, even appeared on television shows asking for information about the stranger who saved his life. And now, here she was, lying at his gate like a discarded piece of cloth, pregnant, homeless, and clearly dying. He did not wait for explanations. He did not call his security team. He ran. At 63 years old, with a heart condition his doctors constantly warned him about. Chief Obiora Madu ran through his mansion like a man half his age. He burst through the front door, startling the night guards who jumped to attention. "Open the gate," he shouted. "Open it now." The guards scrambled to obey, confused by their boss's sudden appearance in his sleeping clothes, his feet bare, his eyes wild with urgency. The gate swung open, and Obiora rushed outside. And there she was, Adaeze, the woman who had pulled him from a burning car with her bare hands. The woman who had vanished before he could say thank you. She was lying on the cold concrete, her body thin and frail, her dress torn and dirty, her pregnant belly rising and falling with shallow breaths. She looked nothing like the strong, fearless girl who had saved him. She looked like someone who had been chewed up by life and spat out. Obiora knelt beside her, tears streaming down his face. "It is you," he whispered. "After all these years, it is really you." Ada's eyes fluttered open. She saw a man kneeling over her, an old man with gray hair and kind eyes, weeping as if she were someone precious. She did not recognize him. She did not understand why a stranger would cry for her. "Please," she murmured, her voice barely audible. "Please help my baby. I do not care about myself. Just save my baby." Obiora lifted her gently, cradling her in his arms as if she weighed nothing. The security guards rushed forward to help, but he waved them away. "Get the car," he ordered. "Call Dr. Namdi. Tell him I am bringing an emergency. Tell him to prepare everything." The guards obeyed without question. Within minutes, Ada was in the back of a Mercedes, her head resting on Obiora's lap, his hand stroking her hair as the driver sped toward the best private hospital in Lagos. She faded in and out of consciousness during the drive. Fragments of memories flashed through her mind. Her father teaching her to count. Her mother singing in the kitchen. Emeka's smile on their wedding day. The empty apartment. The streets. The hunger. The endless, crushing loneliness. She thought she was dying. She thought this was what death felt like. A gentle floating away from pain, carried by hands that felt strangely familiar. They arrived at the hospital in 20 minutes. Obiora had called ahead, and a team of doctors and nurses was waiting at the entrance. They placed Ada on a stretcher and rushed her inside, shouting medical terms Obiora did not understand. He tried to follow, but a nurse stopped him. "Sir, you cannot go in there. Please wait here. We will do everything we can." Obiora paced the waiting room for hours. He called his son, who arrived confused and concerned. "Papa, what is happening? Who is this woman?" Obiora told him the story. The accident 10 years ago. The woman who saved him. The decade-long search that had led nowhere. And now, finding her at his own gate, pregnant and dying. His son listened in silence, then placed a hand on his father's shoulder. "God works in mysterious ways, Papa. You were meant to find her tonight at 4 in the morning." Dr. Namdi emerged from the operating room. His face was tired but calm. Obiora rushed toward him. "How is she? How is the baby?" The doctor smiled. "She is stable. Severely malnourished and dehydrated, but stable. We had to perform an emergency cesarean section. The baby was in distress." Obiora held his breath. "And?" The doctor's smile widened. "You have a healthy baby girl, Chief. She is small, but she is a fighter, just like her mother." Obiora collapsed into a chair, his hands covering his face, his body shaking with sobs. "Thank you, God," he whispered. "Thank you for letting me repay my debt. Thank you for bringing her back to me." When Ada woke up, she thought she was dreaming. She was lying in a soft bed, surrounded by white sheets and beeping machines. Sunlight streamed through clean windows. The smell of antiseptic filled her nostrils, so different from the street smells she had grown accustomed to. She tried to sit up, but her body protested. Then she remembered. The gate, the old man, the hospital. A nurse appeared at her side. "Madam, please do not move. You just had surgery. You need to rest." Ada's hand flew to her belly. It was flat, empty. Panic seized her heart. "My baby," she gasped. "Where is my baby?" The nurse smiled and gestured to the corner of the room. Ada turned her head and saw a small crib, and inside it, wrapped in a pink blanket, was the tiniest, most beautiful creature she had ever seen. Tears poured down Ada's face. She reached out her arms, and the nurse gently placed the baby in her embrace. Ada looked at her daughter's face, at her closed eyes and tiny fingers and rosebud lips, and felt something she had not felt in years. Hope. Pure, overwhelming hope. That was when Chief Obiora entered the room. He stood at the doorway, watching the mother and child, his own eyes glistening with tears. Ada looked up at him, confusion and gratitude battling in her expression. "Sir," she said softly, "I do not know who you are or why you helped me, but thank you. Thank you for saving my daughter." Obiora walked slowly toward her bed and sat in the chair beside it. He took a deep breath before speaking. "You do not remember me, do you?" Ada shook her head. He smiled sadly. 10 years ago, there was an accident near Adaeze. A car crashed and caught fire. Everyone stood watching, but one person, one brave young woman ran toward the flames and pulled out the driver. Ada's eyes widened. "That was you?" Obiora nodded. "You saved my life, Adaeze, and then you disappeared before I could thank you. I have been searching for you ever since. And now, finally, God has given me the chance to repay you." Ada could not believe what she was hearing. The man she had saved 10 years ago, the stranger whose face she had forgotten, was now sitting beside her hospital bed, calling her his blessing. She looked at her daughter sleeping peacefully in her arms, then back at Chief Obiora, and the tears came again. She had spent so many nights cursing God, questioning why she had been abandoned, why she had suffered so much. And now, in this moment, she understood. Every step of her journey, every painful twist, had led her here. "Sir," she whispered, "I do not deserve this. I did not save you for reward. I saved you because it was the right thing to do." Obiora shook his head firmly. "And that is exactly why you deserve everything. In a world where people record accidents on their phones instead of helping, you risked your life for a stranger. You did not ask for my name or my money. You simply acted from your heart. That kind of goodness is rare, Adaeze, and it must be rewarded." Over the following weeks, Ada recovered in the hospital's finest private suite. Obiora visited every day, bringing flowers, fruits, and toys for the baby. His son, Chukwemeka, came too, curious about the woman who had saved his father. At first, he was suspicious. Lagos was full of scammers and pretenders. But as he watched Ada interact with his father, as he saw the genuine humility in her eyes and the grace with which she accepted help, his suspicion transformed into admiration. When Ada was strong enough to leave the hospital, Obiora made an announcement that shocked everyone. He had prepared a guest house on his compound for Ada and her daughter. Not as charity, he insisted, but as family. "You will live here," he said. "Your daughter will attend the best schools. You will have everything you need to rebuild your life. And when you are ready, I will help you start any business you choose." Ada wept and protested. "It is too much, sir. I cannot accept this." But Obiora took her hand gently. "You gave me 10 more years of life. You gave me time to watch my son grow into a man, time to build my legacy, time to make peace with God. There is no gift too big for that. Please let me do this. Not for you, but for myself. Let me die knowing I repaid the woman who saved me." Ada moved into the guest house with her daughter, whom she named Chidinma, meaning God is good. For the first time in her life, she slept without fear. She ate 3 meals a day. She wore clean clothes and bathed in warm water. She watched her daughter grow healthy and strong, her cheeks filling out, her cries becoming laughter. True to his word, Obiora enrolled Ada in a business management course. She studied hard, just as she had done as a child in Anambra, and graduated with the highest marks in her class. With Obiora's support, she opened a small restaurant that quickly became famous for its authentic village recipes. Within 3 years, she had expanded to 5 locations across Lagos. Within 5 years, she was a millionaire in her own right. But Ada never forgot where she came from. She established a foundation for homeless pregnant women, providing them with shelter, medical care, and job training. She visited the streets where she once begged, not with pity, but with purpose. She told her story to anyone who would listen. I was you, she would say. I slept under bridges and ate from dustbins. But God had a plan. He always has a plan. Do not give up. Chief Obiora lived to see Ada's success. He walked her down the aisle when she married a kind engineer who loved her and Chidinma unconditionally. He held her second child in his arms and wept with joy. And when he finally passed away at 75, peaceful and content, Ada stood at his grave and whispered, "Thank you, Papa. Thank you for seeing me when the world looked away." Chidinma grew up knowing her mother's story. She became a doctor, dedicating her life to helping the poor. She often said that her mother's suffering had not been in vain. It had been preparation for a purpose greater than herself. And so, the homeless pregnant woman who collapsed at a billionaire's gate did not just survive. She thrived. She became proof that kindness is never wasted, that compassion returns in ways we cannot imagine, that God sees every tear and counts every prayer, and no matter how dark your night may seem, morning will come. No matter how hopeless your situation feels, help may be closer than you think. And no matter who you are or where you come from, your one act of kindness could change someone's life forever, including your own. If this story touched your heart, please share what you learned in the comments below. Do not forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories like this one. May God bless you and reward every kindness you have shown to strangers. See you in the next video.